excited you all have joined. And I want to share with you a book that I read back in the winter, and it's The Power of Moments, which is what this presentation is based on. And it's by two brothers, Chip Heath and Dan Heath. And I just felt like it was so rich with some tremendous ideas. And I just am going to preface our discussion today to say there is absolutely no way I could cover everything in this book and the rich stories and the rich ideas, but we're going to hit the surface a little bit as we go through today. And the idea behind The Power of Moments is just to begin thinking of what are special times in our lives, and do we miss a lot of moments that we can make special because we don't think about them or we feel like we're too busy. So I'm going to start with the story of a gentleman named Eugene O'Kelly. He was a CEO of a large accounting firm that employed about 20,000 individuals. So this was quite a large firm that he managed and ran on a daily basis. And he wrote a memoir titled Chasing Daylight. And his beginning statement in that book was, "I was blessed. I was given 3 months to live." And his concept there was he had gone to the doctor and been diagnosed with a very aggressive form of brain cancer, of tumors, and they gave him 3 months to live. But because of that, it gave him the opportunity to truly live each day with purpose and with direction. And so he resigned from his position as CEO, but as a planner, he came home and he drew 5 circles, concentric circles, each getting larger. And he began writing names within each of these circles of people that he wanted to close out life with, and that he wanted to make sure he didn't leave unspoken thoughts, ideas. So he started wide with his, his general work friends that he needed to say goodbye to and make lasting plans and transition some of those responsibilities. And then each circle became more and more personal to his very personal friends and then his family, because he knew in the last months he was going to want to spend as much quality time with family as possible. But while he did each of these events, when he took a friend out for the last time or a coworker, he made sure that it was a moment to remember. So they may have been in a beautiful park setting, or they may have gone to a very nice restaurant where they could enjoy the ambiance of the restaurant or the good food, but he added to what he had to say. He didn't want to make it sad or about him.
Recording in progress.
To be a powerful moment. So today what I want us to think about is we are given each and every day to live. And what are we doing to make our life fulfilled and full of joy? And what are we doing to help other lives feel the joy as well? We need to be able to grasp that zeal of the moment as well and enjoy each one and not get so bogged down in just making sure that the kids get to school and the doctor's appointments are met and the meals on the table. But what can we do in the in-betweens to make moments special? So that's what this presentation is going to be. We're going to look at 4 different ways that we can make moments more powerful and be able to seek out some of those moments along the way. So we're going to also define what a moment is. So we'll look at that. So think about one positive defining moment from your life. not your wedding day or the birth of a child or a big event, a graduation, but think of a small, insignificant event that happened in your life, but it was made very powerful, very special, something you'll never forget, and share something of that nature. So you can put it in the chat, or if a couple of you would like to unmute and share a very special moment. While you're thinking of your special moment, I will share one of mine, but I want you to be putting in the chat, and then Mary can read those later. But my grandmother had a very massive stroke. This has been 20 years ago now, and she was in intensive care in the hospital. And there was a gentleman from the church that she attended that a couple of nights a week on his way home from work, he would stop by and sit at the foot of her bed and just sing hymns to her, all the old songs that he knew that she loved. And that meant so much to our family that he took time out to be there and to meet a need and just to be a source of comfort. So anyone else have a moment that you can think of that became very special, or a moment you'll never forget?
I will share one.
Good.
I like to work in my garden. I'm not a real great gardener, but I'm getting there. And I'm a traditional kind of gardener. So I stakes and strings and hoe to keep my garden clean. And a neighbor stopped by one day and said, I see you just chopping all the time. It's too hot sometimes when you're out here. I'm gonna, they didn't say, I want to share something with you. And I didn't know what. Then one morning, the neighbor drives up and he's got a tiller in the back of his vehicle so that I will have a source of equipment that'll keep me out of the garden for so long. Now, that's a moment I'll never forget, because the neighbor was someone I just happened to meet along the way, and they don't live just right next door to me because I'm really in the country. So I had never thought about this neighbor being that, showing that kind of care and compassion. Now, that was a special moment.
Thank you.
I won't forget it.
That is. Anyone else have one to share? Mary, did anyone put something in the chat box?
I don't see anything in the chat right now.
All right, ladies, now you all cannot be quiet. This session is going to be more interactive, so y'all got to get your thinking caps on and you're talking so that we can have some great ideas. But I appreciate what was shared there. So think about this gentleman coming to sing to my grandmother, or the gentleman that shared a tiller with Miss Willadine, or any small moments that maybe you are thinking, even though you're uncomfortable sharing. Were those moments of serendipity, like they just happened, or did they take thoughtful purpose from someone else, a conscious effort to make that happen?
Well, I think this was a conscious effort.
Absolutely, it was a conscious effort. He saw a need, he went home, he made the effort to get the tiller, to do whatever he needed to do. I'm assuming he probably even made effort to clean it up or make sure it had all of its parts working and in good order to be able to share that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And left the tiller with me for the rest of the season.
That's amazing. That's a good neighbor. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to think about, is what are some of the little things we can do along the way that can make an impact on someone's life for a very long time and be something that they remember. So I'm going to start with a little story here of the Magic Castle Hotel. So this hotel is rated as one of the very top in Los Angeles. It beats out the Four Seasons Hotel in ratings. It beats out the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in ratings. But if you go online and look at this hotel, it's the one that's painted canary yellow. It says it has an Olympic pool, but probably only if you're holding the Olympics in your backyard. It is not a hotel, but a converted two-story apartment building. The inside is very sparse as far as not highly decorated. The furniture's outdated, not a lot on the walls. It's clean. But why is it rated one of the #1 places to stay in Los Angeles? And its price is not cheap. Like, we might look online and say, oh, that would be a good budget motel to stay in, but it's not budget. It is comparable in price to maybe a Hilton or a Marriott. So what makes the Magic Castle such a special place to go and to be? Well, we're going to start at the red phone by the pool. So one of the experiences they give you in this hotel is the fact that you pick up this red phone by the pool and you're greeted by a staff member that says, Popsicle Hotline, may I help you? And you can order a cherry, a grape, or an orange popsicle. And a staffer is going to bring it to you poolside with white gloves on a silver tray, and it's free. Who doesn't think that is cool and kind of out of the ordinary? But it doesn't stop there. They have a whole snack bar that you can go pick out snacks and enjoy free of charge. They have an area with board games and DVDs that you can take up to your room and play with your family free of charge. And you can get your laundry done free of charge. And they'll bring it back to your room wrapped in butcher paper, a little twine, and a piece of lavender in it. So it's these little special activities that they do that make their hotel stand out. And people go back talking about the Popsicle Hotline. We stayed where they delivered us a popsicle on a silver tray. So the whole experience isn't special, but they've taken time to define some moments that could make your memory special by being there. And so that's what we're going to look at for the next few minutes is how do we create those special moments along the way? So think about my next question is a recent service experience maybe that you've had. Maybe it's with an airline or I had my car serviced the other day, or maybe a doctor's office, and it stood out to you as a very good experience, or it stood out to you as a very negative experience. You all may put something in the chat, or you may unmute and share an experience. Let's start with the peaks. So anyone have just an outstanding experience that they would want to share?
Anita, Mary Alice had put in the chat earlier, I think it was to your previous question, but it still probably applies. They took her dad to the areas of Indiana, Ohio, Michigan to visit homesteads and cemeteries. And it was great to share time with them. They both love genealogy. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yes, that's a great example of a moment or taking, and well, we'll talk in a minute, but a moment isn't necessarily defined by a specific time. It can be a trip, it can be a vacation, it can be lots of things. So that's a wonderful experience. Anyone have a service experience that they felt stood out? I'll share just a quick, and I won't share where it is, but I'll definitely be buying my next vehicle from them. But I took my vehicle in to be serviced because we were going on vacation, and I've kind of neglected my car for a couple of years. So I wanted to make sure it was in good working order. They kept me in the loop every step of the way when they were fixing to pull it in. They videotaped their inspection as they talked to make sure that I saw what they were seeing, and they showed everything. They called to make sure what they recommended was accepted. It was just a pleasant experience all the way around. And that makes you want to go back and to do business with someone like that, right? But we've all been on the other end where there's a negative experience as well. So we're going to talk about, we can have peaks and we can have pits. So a defining moment is basically a short experience that's both memorable and meaningful. So when you, both of our stories that were shared, or mine too, it was memorable. We remember the person that brought the tiller, or that we went on a vacation with our dad, or that my grandmother was sick. But it was also meaningful. There was the family connection when you were going around and learning about genealogy and family history. It was meaningful that someone cared about your garden and about your health and safety being out in that garden. So a defining moment, again, doesn't necessarily have to be a moment like a minute or an hour. It could be over a lapse of days, but it's something that we're going to remember and brings a lot of meaning to us along the way. So there's 4 ways that we can build those memories and make things memorable to our family members, our friends, our community. And the first is elevation. So we're going to talk about those moments that rise above the everyday. They elevate our moments, they boost our sensory pleasures, they add a possible element of surprise along the way, kind of like bringing the popsicle out on a silver tray. So that's elevation. A second way we can build powerful moments, defining moments, is through pride. When we capture someone at their very best moments, their moments of achievement, or moments of them being able to express courage or to step out and try something new, and being able to recognize some of the milestones along the way to that greater goal. So we're going to talk more about that and break that down later. The third is insight. So when we have those aha moments and we begin to understand ourselves from a different perspective, or we have a different idea on things. And Miss Willadine, you had one this morning. I was on the exercise and you participated with Mary on the balance, and you had an aha moment. I walk all the time, but my balance wasn't so good.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about how that brings about some of those memorable moments as well. And the fourth is connection. Moments that we share together bring us closer together. And so if we look at the acronym for that, elevation, pride, insight, and connection, it spells EPIC. So to make an epic moment, these are the 4 areas that we're going to want to share along the way. So there are 3 ways that are 3 times that we can think of those special moments. We want to be a moments seeker. we want to begin looking around us and considering our world, and what are some ways that we can boost those moments. So 3 ways are looking at transitions in our life, milestones that we meet, and then again, those negatives, those pits along the way. So we want to, again, be a moment spotting habit, can feel unnatural. And many times we get busy looking at our goals and the things that we want to accomplish. And that becomes our thing. The goal, the destination becomes our thing. When really the journey is where all the moments are. And to an individual human being, those moments are the thing. Moments are what we remember and what we cherish. So every culture has some of those big moments, those birthdays, graduations, weddings, celebrations, even funeral rites or political parties. But if we think about it, every one of those special moments were invented, dreamed up by someone who felt they deserved a little extra attention. So they had an author that wanted to give shape to time, wanted to honor birthdays, wanted to think that it was special to have a graduation. So when we think in moments, we can recognize any type of activity around us or life around us that we feel needs to be punctuated. So our first way of doing that is through transitions. And those are naturally defining moments, again, like getting married, our first day of work, our first home, a new baby. Those are transitions in our life. They're changes in our life that we can think about how we could build on those and make those special. So I have a special story of a therapist whose name was Doka, and he had a woman come to him who had lost her husband 6 years earlier to Lou Gehrig's disease. She was still relatively young, but she was very in love with her husband, and every night before they went to bed, they would hold hands and make sure their wedding rings touched, and they would re-say their wedding vows. So she came to Doka and said, I feel like I'm ready to start dating a little bit, but I can't take my wedding ring off. And she said, and I can't really date wearing someone else's wedding ring. So together they made a plan for a transition, and they had a transitional wedding ceremony. So all her friends and family came together and they reversed the wedding vows. So they asked her, did you keep this vow? Yes. Did you love in, health? And yes. And at the end, the minister said, may I now have the ring? And she was then able to pull the ring off and give it to the minister. And they did a very special binding of the rings and made a very special keepsake for her. But through that ceremony, she was able to let go of her past and move forward into something new. So think about, is there something in your life or someone in your life who you believe might benefit from some kind of landmark of that kind, a moment that separates the old me from the new me? Or has anyone experienced a transition like that? Maybe someone made a new job special, or someone did something special as you moved into a new home, or any other transition. Y'all are a quiet bunch. Maybe you'll think of some along the way, and feel free to put them in the chat as we go. The second is the milestones. We naturally celebrate like the 16th birthday, our 50th birthday, a 50th wedding anniversary. We tend to celebrate those with ease, but there are lots of milestones that happen every day. You know, when we celebrate a birthday, we're really not any older than one day older than we were yesterday, but we celebrate those year markers. What about the 50th book read, or this 1000th day of school, or whatever might be a special milestone that we can set? We can decide where those milestones are. Right now in Cheatham County, we're doing Walk Across Tennessee. So 500 miles is a big milestone. But even along the way to some of those smaller items can be recognized as milestones. So what are some milestones we could recognize in FCE? Or what are some maybe your club already recognizes?
I think for me, as we were talking yesterday about creative writing, I'm not aware of anyone in our club that does creative writing. Some other people in Robeson County will, but that's something that our club could set as a milestone. Just one person, we work at it together, I think, and then one person put some things together and submit a creative writing document.
That's a great idea. So just making a goal of writing something small, putting together a poem, or putting together even putting together a news article for the club that can be submitted as a piece of creative writing.
Great.
And Anna put in the chat years in the club.
Oh, yes, recognizing your first year in the club, or 5-year, or 10-year. We don't have to wait until there's 50 years to celebrate the 50th year in the club. Being able to recognize how many years of service would be a great idea for recognizing a milestone.
And Becky added perfect attendance for 1 year.
Absolutely. Being at every club meeting for a year would be a great way to recognize. And even I was thinking back on Miss Willa Dean's, but recognize the first time you complete your CVUs, or that you turn in a creative writing, or the first time you participate in cultural arts. All of those could be milestones along the way. And then our other area where we can see those powerful moments are in the pits. So sometimes there's negative defining moments, moments of hardship or pain or anxiety, and pits need to be filled. An example of that would be in Disney World, when you have to wait in long lines in 100-degree weather to get into your favorite ride in Disney World. If you notice along the walls and along the way, there's all sorts of interactive posters. They have the animals dressed up that come by and talk, or characters, not necessarily animals, but the characters. They're keeping your mind occupied so you're not realizing that you're waiting 45 minutes to ride a ride, right? It could be more drastic as a cancer diagnosis. But if you have a good team of oncologists and nurses and resources that come around you and help to put that plan together to help you figure out those next steps, that experience cannot be as painful as it could be if you didn't have those resources along the way. Well,
Anita,
yes.
on this pits and the anxiety being filled, God took away my anxiety. My husband was awaiting his second cancer diagnosis, and we knew that the next day that we would receive the word. And that night, I had a dream. And in that dream, he was, I know he was in heaven. The sky was the most gorgeous blue sky. It was as pretty as the blue on these little squares here. And at that time, before that, we had for 25 years had a farm, and he loved his tractors. And a former friend of ours who had passed away was a big time farmer. He wasn't just a hobby farmer like we were. And he had passed away. In this dream, both of these men are on these gorgeous tractors. There was not a speck of dirt anywhere on them. The tractors gleamed. The sky was glorious. And there was a plow behind them. And they were plowing, and it did not look like the dirt that we have here. It was floating. And they had, both men, they were driving their tractors side by side, and they had this most glorious smile on their faces. And when I woke up, I knew we would get a cancer diagnosis. I knew it was not going to turn out as well as the first cancer, but I knew it was going to be okay because I knew where he was going. And I felt at peace. I never told him about the dream, but God eased my anxiety about it. And so to this day, I just get a wonderful feeling just remembering that dream.
Oh, Miss Sharon, thank you for sharing that. I have goosebumps.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
When he passed away, the man's wife and 3 children all came, to the funeral home for my husband. And I told, now his wife had already been told about the dream, but I told his 3 children. And I told them that their daddy had the most gorgeous smile, that he was loving every minute. So it made us all feel good. But I don't go for many days without remembering that dream.
Absolutely. You're going to make it hard for me to finish this presentation. That was so beautiful.
Oh no. You're doing a great job.
But it does make us have that peace along the way. So we're going to get into our epic. So thinking about during transitions, during milestones, even during the negative, the pits, how can we find moments within that and make them more defining? And so the first one, as we talked about, is elevation. And this is experiences that rise above the everyday. They're times to be savored. They're moments that make us feel engaged. They make us feel joyful, amazed, motivated. They're what we call the peaks of our experience along the way. So when we go back and think about that first story I shared with Mr. O'Kelly, is he didn't just pick up the phone and say, I want you to know I've been diagnosed with cancer, and I want you to know I appreciate everything you've done for me. He took each individual and wrote letters. He took them out to beautiful sceneries, beautiful at the lake or the park. So he elevated that sense of what was going on around him, that the experience. So there's 3 factors that help us create elevation. One is to boost the sensory appeal, which is what Mr. O'Kelly did. 2 is to raise the stakes. So put a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not courage, but, you know, make us not be completely secure in what we're doing. And 3 is to break the script. So in families, again, so often, and it's no fault, it's life, but we get so busy just trying to balance life each day and manage the chaos and the doctor's appointments, and that we forget to focus on putting some energy to build some of these peaks along the way. So the Heath brothers that authored the book I read gave a challenge, and it was called the Saturday Surprise. And in this, the one thing they said is you have to break the script. So what is something you could do that is out of routine, out of the ordinary, that kind of, oh, you know, something we're not expecting. So some of the examples that they gave in the book were 2 broke roommates that decided one weekend that they pooled their money together and went to explore the Red Rocks. One romantic husband prepared a meal and had a picnic for his wife in San Antonio along the Riverwalk. So breaking the script is a way that you can yield bite-sized little defining moments, but they catch us off guard. So they disrupt our routine along the way. Can any of you all think of a time that maybe you broke the script or someone broke the script on you and how that made you feel?
This happened to me just this weekend. Now, grew up on the farm with my sister. I only have one sister. And she just lives in Nashville, but with COVID, we don't see each other very much. So I called her to tell her that I had been to pick strawberries in the field you pick. And she said, well, let's do that. So on the weekend, she, her daughter, and granddaughter all came down, and we went to the strawberry patch and picked strawberries. And for me, that was just a real surprise and enlightening and lifting experience. Made me think about when we were children picking strawberries in my grandfather's patch. So that was an uncertain experience, and it did make me come alive.
Yes, good. Anyone else want to share? So the next part of that, and feel free anytime to put in the chat, Mary will read those to me along the way. But the other about the raised stakes. So another way that we build elevation is when there's a little sense of danger. I guess that's the word I was looking for a while ago. But there's a quote that says, we feel most comfortable when things are certain, but we feel most alive when they're not. Anyone want to speak to that? Does that sound true? Can you think of a time when maybe an uncertain experience made you feel alive? So while y'all are typing or thinking, I'm going to share one of mine. And I remember thinking in this experience, I feel so alive. But I had taken my children on a cruise, and my daughter and I decided, we were in Belize, that we were going to zip line through the jungle. And so we had to climb up this big mountainous area, and then you did 5 passes down. It was so exhilarating and so beautiful. And I did going through there, I thought, I feel so alive. And it was this concept, you know, it's a little uncertain, a little sense of danger, but a little sense of accomplishment too, that I was doing something I didn't think I was capable of doing. And that builds that sense of elevation in our system. Anybody else think of something while I was sharing? Okay, well, we're going to move on because I know there's time, but please keep sharing. I want you to think on FCE, what are some ways that you could build elevation, moments of elevation within your FCE clubs? What are some ways maybe you could build a little uncertainty or try something new that, that might be a little uncomfortable, but would feel very good? Or what about breaking the script? What's a way to move forward or to heighten the sensory? So think about your FCE events, things that you do, and add a little sense of this elevation. We're going to move on to the P, which is pride. And again, this is when we capture ourselves at our very best, or we capture others at their very best. And maybe even moments of courage, like if we would have captured me going down the zip line. I know my daughter at the end was like, oh, Mom, I'm so proud of you. You did that. So being able to, again, find things that people are truly good at and complimenting them and recognizing them. So one of the stories in the book is about a young girl in middle school, and she was in the choir and she loved to sing and she loved drama and all that was caught up in that. But her teacher in choir, in front of the whole class, commented that she was not singing appropriately and asked her to please just mouth the words. So she went through the whole rest of the year feeling very self-conscious, mouthing words, not willing to sing out anymore. And you know, that sixth grade, that's kind of, you're already feeling yuck, you know, your body's changing and you just don't know your place. So that summer she went to a summer camp and they put her in a choir group and she mouthed the words. Well, that the camp director noticed her mouthing and asked her to stay after one afternoon. And she sat her down at the piano and she began singing songs with her and harmonizing. She grabbed her in the face before she left and said, you have a beautiful voice and you can do whatever you want to do. Her experience, because somebody believed in her, and she became very active in singing and theater. So because someone recognized her, it changed her perspective. Along else of an experience such as that. Someone who maybe took time to encourage you or to lead you in a way that changed maybe your projection of where you were headed. Again, you can put that in the chat or you can share. Okay, Shelley said it's 1:30. What time do we end? Mary, do you know? 1:30?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-oh, and it's 1:30 already?
It is, but she said we'll go a few more minutes.
Okay, I got to talk fast then, so we may not get to share as much. But at the end of the day, you're going to get this 7 days of defining moments, and I hope you'll take that challenge, and we'll talk more about that. I'm going to move through because we're just on P. So a few minutes can change a life, just like I shared with the story of Kyra. And think about ways that you can mentor or encourage others. Miss Willadine, earlier today, I heard you talking. You just helped my whole presentation today, and you didn't even know you were helping. But with talking about somebody who had invited you to the club and talked with you and mentored you, through the club. So when we invite others and we mentor them, maybe we're good at creative writing and we say, hey, let me help you do some writing, or I'm good at cultural arts, let me teach you how to do. But we can mentor and change lives and encourage lives as we go. And I'm sorry, so appreciation, recognition, think of ways in your club that you can recognize individuals for their true skills, not the employee of the month where you start just making up things to be able to give somebody employee of the month, but truly recognizing who they are and what they do. And then creating milestones. And I had a story here, but sometimes we have this huge goal, but if we break it into smaller steps and we can celebrate those small steps along the way, those milestones to that bigger opportunity is a great way to do that and to feel good along the way. So think about smaller milestones. So maybe we want to get someone to enter that creative writing. So maybe we start with just, hey, write a quick journal entry about your summer experience or whatever it might be. Getting them just to begin writing. Oh, she's going to end me in 1 minute. Insights. So those aha moments like Miss Willadine had with this morning, the balance. And then to stretch for insight, try new things, get experiences. And FCE is a great way to stretch and to do those insights. Mentor, connection, being part of a community is so important in that face-to-face. I had a fun story to tell about laughter, because we don't necessarily laugh because things are funny. We laugh to be a part of a group and to let the group know that we are a part of them. So I just want to encourage you to think of those moments. I know I went through that last part really fast. Take the 7-day challenge that's going to be on the website and email me your experiences if you try some of these activities. I'm going to start Sunday, and I'm going to do all next week as my 7-day power of moments. And I would love to hear back your moments too. So I put my email there. It's a.2@utk.edu. I'm sorry I took too long to get through, but I hope that you all will think of what are some other ways I can build moments within our FCE club to make it meaningful and memorable for members along the way. Any other questions?
I thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all being with me this afternoon. And she'll probably send us back in just a minute because she had put on there we had 1 minute to go, but